on a mission to get winter gear to people with no place else to go.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I talked to somebody who's been here for 3 weeks. I talked to somebody who said, I think I have pneumonia, and I don't know if I can go to the hospital or not.
Why the winter gear is just a stopgap, and what else shelter advocates are calling for as the fall chill settles in.
And we're here to say Canada needs to stop arming Israel.
Plus, protesting a private company. Why demonstrators at this Toronto business specializing in armored vehicles and defense say this company needs to stop arming Israel, and what the company has to say.
They need to know how these animals live on farms. They need to know what they go through, and I think it's very important.
And protesting atrocities against animals. Why a new agriculture law is pushing hundreds to demonstrate in front of Toronto courts. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. This week's sub-zero temperatures are chilling for a lot of people, especially refugees forced to sleep on the street with no place to go. And tonight, a group of outreach workers brought them winter gear to try to keep warm. But advocates say the winter gear effort won't solve the city's overburdened shelter system. Anam Khan is live on Peter Street in the downtown at the Central Intake Center. And Anam, a significant update for those people just moments ago. What is the latest?
Chris, Alexa Gilmore, Reverend Alexa Gilmore, has been working with these outreach workers for a very long time. The good news is that she said the city made a miracle happen today. So all these refugees that are sleeping out here, they will have a place to stay, but it will be in makeshift centers across the city. But the good news is they are in the system, so they won't be sleeping here tonight, and they won't be sleeping here tomorrow. But you know, this still is a problem. The problem of refugees continuing on the streets. For months, there have been refugees sleeping outside the city's central intake building. The crisis peaked in the early summer. Now, as the temperature drops, there's a new urgency to get them off the streets.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I talked to somebody who's been here for 3 weeks. I talked to somebody who said, I think I have pneumonia.
There are hundreds of refugees without a home in Toronto. Dozens are staying in churches. Some have moved to hotels, but many remain on the street. Last month, the city's overburdened shelter system was turning away a record number, nearly 300 people a night. As temperatures dropped below zero this week, a group of outreach workers worried about refugees brought jackets, hats, and sleeping gear.
It's a risk for them to leave the space because of losing their place in line, essentially. So we're here to essentially try to see what we can do to help keep people warm.
2 weeks ago, the city announced it would provide 170 spaces through 4 warming centers, but only when temperatures reach -5 degrees Celsius. That's a problem, says outreach worker Lorraine Lamb.
That's not even enough to meet the number of people that get turned away from calling central intake every day. So that's not enough.
She says the issue is not just about refugees, it's about unhoused people across the city.
And I think we need to remember that these are all symptoms of the larger issue, which is that we have no housing and we have no respites for people.
Back on Peter Street, advocates are calling on the community. They're even asking people to drop off gear at their local politician's office.
Right in your neighborhood, you can drop off warm winter gear. If the feds and the province and the city won't do this, we will.
Was reporting live from the downtown tonight. She was telling us that there was this solution that was put in place to get those people off the street tonight, but just a temporary fix, especially troubling when we take a look at the temperatures. So let's look live at the city skyline right now, and downright frigid as we see the city right now. 2 degrees and clear. Colette Kennedy is here with our first check on the forecast. And Colette, judging by that background behind you, you're feeling in the Halloween spirit, I suppose.
Yeah, Chris, I hope you're not afraid of a little black cat here. I thought we'd better get straight to looking at our forecast for our trick-or-treaters. Okay, they're in bed, but the parents, so you know what you're going to need to do in terms of how to dress for tomorrow. We are going to have some cool conditions, 4 degrees. Now, this is right around the witching hour, which I'm putting at 6:30. The sun sets around 6:10, so around 6:30, depending as you're heading out, partly cloudy skies. Winds will be out of the west about 10 to 20 kilometers an hour. Now, how are we going to get there? Well, let's deal with tonight as well. Yes, still a few areas with some lake effect flurries, but mostly through the overnight, the winds back off enough and we get into partly cloudy conditions. A mix of sun and cloud through the GTA tomorrow, a little more cloud cover back into southwestern Ontario. But then tomorrow night, so Halloween night into Wednesday morning, we're going to see the wind shift to the southwest. And again, some areas will have some lake effect snow. Watch out, eastern Ontario there, eastern edge of Lake Ontario, Kingston, maybe some accumulating snow there and parts of cottage country. -1 overnight tonight, feeling like -5. And tomorrow's high below seasonal, 6 degrees.
What a difference in just a couple days. All right. Thank you, Colette. Now to the north end of the city and a protest against a Toronto business that supplies Israel's military. Protest organizers say the demonstration was about the human rights of Palestinian people, and they're calling on Canadian companies to stop arming the Israel Defense Forces. Our Del Manukduk has that story.
Dozens of people gathered outside blocking entry into the global headquarters of Incus, a Toronto-based company specializing in armored vehicles and aerospace and defense.
So we're here to tell Incus, which has bragged about supplying the most command and control units to the Israeli government than any other company. And we're here to say Canada needs to stop arming Israel.
According to materials from Israel's Ministry of Defense, Incus does supply vehicles to military bases, law enforcement agencies, and government institutions, and has been in business for over 30 years. And one of the executives was on scene here today and said that the demonstration was very disruptive and harmful to his business.
We are a Jewish family. We targeted number one because of the Jews, just shows the rise of anti-Semitism in this country.
We're lovers of peace, lovers of social justice. We oppose all forms of racism, including anti-Semitism. This is about a company's complicity.
Last year, Canada exported over $21 million worth of military goods to Israel. In a statement, Incus's chairperson writes in part, being primarily a manufacturing business, every minute of production time counts. We have lost hours. Our business has been unnecessarily disrupted. Our employees no longer feel safe in the workplace.
This situation is causing our business to lose money, to lose profits. Some people are not able to work today. It's bad to see. In today's economical situation, our country has to spend resources to uphold the law.
Incus is a private business. Toronto police say demonstrators were asked to leave and that 5 people were arrested for trespassing and released with provincial offense notices. Organizers say 7 people were arrested and provided a copy of the ticket issued with a $65 fine. They also say it won't be business as usual for companies supplying Israel's military. Del Manukduk, CBC News, Toronto.
Now to the ongoing challenges with Toronto's finances, and Mayor Olivia Chow says progress is being made towards a deal that could help Toronto shore up its troubled financial situation.
Administrations, both on the provincial and the municipal side, have met 6 times. They are now drilling down on a lot of the details and will come back with a full-scale report by the end of November.
Chow speaking at Queen's Park this afternoon after meeting with Premier Doug Ford, and the mayor says a new deal between the city and the province is needed as Toronto faces a $1.5 billion budget hole. Chow is again calling on the federal government to also be a partner in a new financial deal for Toronto. Staying at Queen's Park, there's evidence the Premier discussed Greenbelt land removals with one of the developers set to benefit. That's well before the government ever indicated it was pursuing the land swap. Lorenda Redekop takes us through what we're learning tonight.
This latest evidence indicates Premier Doug Ford was part of a face-to-face meeting with developer Sergio Mancia. He's a co-founder of the company Urban Solutions, set to benefit from land being removed from the Greenbelt. It comes in an email from a planner at Urban Solutions to the Premier's executive assistant. It mentions a meeting on September 20th, 2021 that included Premier Doug Ford, the local Progressive Conservative MPP, and Mancia about the developer's request to remove his land from the Greenbelt. That same evening, a PC fundraising event was held in Ancaster, costing $1,200 a ticket. The Integrity Commissioner report said Manchia held a fundraising event that month for the local MPP, Donna Skelly, with the Premier in attendance. Ford told the Integrity Commissioner he had no recollection of meeting Manchia or having any conversations with him about the Greenbelt.
This is just one detail from Freedom of Information documents released to Environmental Defense and then shared with media. There are text messages and emails, 7,000 pages altogether. Opposition parties responded as they continued to comb through all the documents.
This is just further proof that all roads lead to the Premier's office.
These documents raise more questions, and perhaps the most important one is, did the Premier or his former housing minister lie under oath?
The people I talked to are clearly angry that we have a government that's willing to break all the rules and roll out the gravy train for a handful of wealthy, well-connected Ford elites.
So far, 4 people have lost their jobs as fallout to the Greenbelt investigations. One of them, the former housing minister's chief of staff, Ryan Amato. The government says he's the person responsible for choosing the Greenbelt lands to open up for housing. The Premier's office responded to CBC's questions about the email. It doesn't directly address this meeting in 2021, but says changes to the Greenbelt were only contemplated after last year's provincial election, and neither the Premier nor the Premier's office was part of any specific site selection. It says the Hamilton site had long-standing support from the local community. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, since coming to power, the Ford government has fast-tracked zoning approvals on more than 100 properties around Ontario, and those approvals potentially boosted the value of land owned by certain developers. Now, in the wake of the Greenbelt scandal, it is raising questions about whether any favors were in play. Our senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has that story.
A minister's zoning order, or MZO, instantly changes what a landowner is allowed to build. And with the stroke of a pen, it can dramatically increase the value of a property. During their entire time in office, Ontario Liberal governments issued just 18 MZOs. Since 2019, the PC government has handed out 110.
And I want more MZOs to stir the economy, to get jobs out there.
New research by the NDP shows that the Ford government has given 18 MZOs to benefit just these 4 people. They all attended the Premier's daughter's wedding reception last year.
It really seems like being a friend of the Ford family does have its perks.
Those MZOs fast-tracked the approvals to build thousands of homes, including on farmland in Caledon and this project in Innisfil, near the shores of Lake Simcoe.
There is a very clear pattern of this government doing special favors for speculators who are connected to them, whether they're political donors or family friends.
The Municipal Affairs Minister is reviewing all the government's MZOs, but says he's not concerned about the vast majority.
We're doing MZOs so that we can get transit and transportation built faster. We're doing MZOs so that we can build more hospitals all across the province of Ontario, and we're giving out MZOs so that we can meet our goal of building 1.5 million homes.
Ontario's Auditor General is now investigating how the government has awarded these zoning orders, and the opposition parties are welcoming that probe.
To make sure that the same corrupt process that led to them removing land from the Greenbelt hasn't been involved in any of these MZOs. I think the people of Ontario deserve an honest answer around that question.
Hell no, MZOs! Hell no, MZOs!
This is not the first time the government has had blowback over these fast-track zoning orders. An MZO greenlit a giant distribution warehouse on this wetland in Pickering. But after CBC News revealed the potential tenant was Amazon Canada, Amazon pulled out and the government scrapped its approval. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and the province is announcing today it is lowering the age of regular publicly funded screenings from 50 to 40.
Nearly 12,000 Ontarians are diagnosed with breast cancer each and every year. We know early detection through regular screening with mammograms can save lives, detecting breast cancer before it has the chance to spread.
Going forward, people as young as 40 will be able to self-refer for mammograms every 2 years starting next fall. The health minister says the lowered age will mean an additional 130,000 mammograms will be completed in the province each year. The ministry says it'll hire new staff to develop a public reporting system so that patients can see province-wide wait times. Returning now and taking you directly to the Eglinton West area, where a truck hit 2 pedestrians this morning, sending 1 man to hospital. It happened at Dufferin and Castlefield at around 10:15 a.m., and police say 2 pedestrians were hit by the same truck. A man in his 70s was rushed to a trauma center with life-threatening injuries. The other pedestrian suffered only minor injuries, and the driver remained at the scene. Now to a transit update. Limited service resumed today on the 508 Lakeshore streetcar.
It's really nice because my husband travels every day, and with the streetcar there will be no traffic as well because it doesn't have to stop the traffic.
I feel like it's like better and like we have more access and more stops. So I think it's like good that they made it longer for us.
The streetcar will run from the Long Branch Loop and Parliament Street during peak hours in the morning and afternoon. The route was discontinued in 2020 due to low ridership during the pandemic. The TTC says it is adding additional service on a variety of routes in the city's southwest by November 19th, including the return of the 501 streetcar. Animal rights activists protested outside a downtown courtroom today. A group is suing the provincial government, hoping to repeal a bill passed 3 years ago. That law makes it illegal for whistleblowers and journalists to go undercover at farms to expose animal cruelty. Greg Ross met with those protesters.
Dozens gathered in front of the Superior Court on University Avenue this afternoon to protest outside, while lawyers inside challenged the merits of the province's agricultural gag law.
So it makes it illegal for an advocate or a journalist to go undercover on a farm and expose hidden cruelty on hidden camera.
Camille Labchuk is the executive director of Animal Justice, the activist group behind the lawsuit. Members of Animal Justice had spearheaded a number of undercover animal cruelty investigations before the province passed the ag gag law.
These types of exposés have resulted in charges and convictions against farms for illegal cruelty, and they've exposed practices that the public finds unacceptable, like keeping animals caged in tiny crates and like workers hitting or punching animals.
Many of the protesters here today say this bill is only helping to cover up atrocities against animals.
I think people need to know about it. They need to know how these animals live on farms. They need to know what they go through, and I think it's very important.
The province would not speak specifically about the court case, but a representative from the Ministry of Attorney General told CBC News in a statement, Ontario's position is that the Security from Trespass and Protecting Food Safety Act and regulations are constitutional. The legislation does not impede expression by activists, journalists, or anyone else, nor does it otherwise breach the Charter.
In the United States, similar laws have been passed, and in 6 states now, judges have struck those laws down as an unconstitutional intrusion on free speech. So we're very optimistic that the courts in Canada will agree with that perspective.
Helping to make the argument this week, the family of Regan Russell, an animal rights activist who was killed just days after the bill was passed in 2020. She was protesting at a slaughterhouse in Burlington when she was hit by a truck carrying a load of pigs.
She was standing up for what she believed in for over 40 years. We've started the Regan Russell Foundation to have a seat at the table today to speak to repealing Bill 156.
Organizers here say they expect the court proceedings to last until sometime on Wednesday, but they say it'll likely be months before they get a verdict. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Tomorrow, and Colette, certainly quite different weather from what we were dealing with last week, hey?
Yeah, that's right, Chris. I know we had all that mild air for parts of October, including just the end of last week and into the beginning of the weekend. And here we go towards Halloween, and we have some cooler readings. But rather than feel sorry for ourselves, I thought we could take a look at the warmest Halloween in history. All right. Yeah, this wasn't necessarily trick-or-treat hours, but the warmest temperature was almost 23 degrees, but look at the coolest, nearly -8 back in 1975, and then rainiest, I think we're going to be mostly dry, so that is good, and snowiest, 1.4 centimeters, 2014. There are a few areas that will see some lake effect, but that's not really so much for the GTA. Tomorrow night, we could have a wet flurry pass through our skies. Don't be alarmed. Looking at what we have with the forecast then in general, not that scary. It's just cool. We see the winds back off somewhat overnight tonight, partly cloudy skies, then some increasing cloudiness at times tomorrow, so sort of variable skies, a mix of sun and cloud. And some of the precipitation you're seeing here, yes, that does have to do with the winds and the lake effect. So when it's a more westerly flow, we're seeing this in the lee of Georgia Bay or Lake Huron. And then as it comes around to the southwest, this is why Kingston area, you could get some mix there. Now the ground's still pretty warm, even if the air temperature gets cool these next few nights. And so it's not likely to stick around or anything build up. Wednesday, then we'll see some improvement kind of later in the day. Your temperatures overnight tonight, these are the numbers, but then your wind chill making it feel -5 to -8. -1 the low in Toronto overnight tonight, but look at Markham, Oshawa, some cooler readings there, and that's where it's going to feel like -8 to -9, and even our daytime highs not getting back to closer to seasonal, Chris, till we get to about Friday, and then they improve.
Quite a snap back to reality. All right, thank you, Colette. Canada Post has issued a new commemorative stamp to honor the NHL's first ever black player, Willie O'Ree. The stamp was unveiled in Edmonton as part of the Heritage Classic weekend festivities. O'Ree broke the league's color barrier when he joined the Boston Bruins way back in 1958. And he was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in 2018 for his contributions to promoting diversity and inclusion in hockey. Finally tonight, it is hard to say goodbye to October without Halloween treats, whether you're a human or even a zoo animal. All right, so this zoo in England has made sure its animals don't miss out on the celebration, including this 2-year-old lioness. She made short work of a jack-o'-lantern stuffed with meaty treats. Some others seemed a bit more picky. Maybe pumpkin-spiced fish isn't yet a trend among penguins. And the zoo is home for 245 species. Many of the animals remain under threat of extinction. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you back here tomorrow.